Isaiah chapter 17 begins with a prophecy of judgment against Damascus, the capital of Syria, and the surrounding region of Israel. The chapter opens with the declaration that Damascus will be destroyed and reduced to ruins, no longer a fortified city. This marks the fall of one of Israel's most significant enemies. The prophecy states that Damascus will cease to be a city and will become a heap of ruins, signaling God's judgment upon it for its role in opposing Israel. This destruction is part of a broader theme in Isaiah, where God brings down the powerful nations that have acted against His will. The chapter continues with the description of the consequences for the northern kingdom of Israel, which had aligned itself with Damascus in a previous alliance. Isaiah predicts that Israel will also face a similar fate, experiencing a loss of strength and stability. The cities of Israel will be abandoned, and its people will be left desolate. The once strong and prosperous nation will be devastated, and the resulting loss will be a direct consequence of its rejection of God. The chapter underscores the theme of judgment against those who fail to recognize God's sovereignty and trust in their own power. Isaiah also highlights the spiritual cause of these impending judgments. The people of Israel and Syria had turned to idols and relied on their own military might rather than trusting in God. The destruction that will come upon both Damascus and Israel is portrayed as a result of their idolatry and their rejection of God's authority. The chapter emphasizes that the fall of these nations is not simply a political or military defeat, but a judgment for their failure to honor God. The people's reliance on earthly power rather than divine protection leads to their downfall. The chapter concludes with a note of hope for the remnant. Isaiah prophesies that a small group of people, a remnant, will turn to God and find refuge in Him after the judgment has taken place. This remnant will look to the Lord, who will provide for them amidst the destruction. Despite the devastation brought about by God's judgment, there remains the promise of salvation for those who remain faithful to Him. The final verses of the chapter also include a vivid image of the finality and thoroughness of the judgment, as the nations are overwhelmed and vanish like a whirlwind. The chapter illustrates both God's justice and mercy, showing His power to both bring down the proud and save the humble. Let's now read Isaiah chapter 17. The burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The cities of Aroer are forsaken, they shall be for flocks, which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they shall be as the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. And in that day it shall come to pass, that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean. And it shall be as when the harvestman gathereth the corn, and reapeth the ears with his arm, and it shall be as he that gathereth ears in the valley of Rephaim. Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it, as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost bough, 4 or 5 in the outmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God of Israel. At that day shall a man look to his Maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel. And he shall not look to the altars, the work of his hands, neither shall respect that which his fingers have made, either the groves, or the images. In that day shall his strong cities be as a forsaken bough, and an uppermost branch, which they left because of the children of Israel, and there shall be desolation. Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shalt set it with strange slips. In the day shalt thou make thy plant to grow, and in the morning shalt thou make thy seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow. Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations, that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but God shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as the chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. And behold, at eveningtide trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. This ends our reading of Isaiah chapter 17.